think I'm back, yeah. I think we did it. I think we did it. Try this one. I think we did it, y'all. I think we did it. Please let me be live. Okay, I think I'm live now. So I was live? I think we did it. I think we did it. I should be live on Facebook and YouTube right now. Please confirm someone in the chat. It took me 30 minutes. Am I live? Yeah, I'm live right now on YouTube. I think we did it. Okay, I'm on YouTube. Am I on Facebook as well? Show on stream. There he is. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, we got it 30 minutes later. I'm trying to see if I'm showing on Facebook right now.
Well, I haven't heard of this
Yeah,
platform before, so this is good for me to learn something about too.
Yeah, man. Wave
Yeah,
Facebook Live.
StreamYard or
Good to go.
something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah, we good now. Okay, so we live on Facebook and YouTube right now. Yeah, so I'm using this new service. It's called Wave.video. For $20 a month, it allows you to stream to 5 different platforms, and it allows you to bring up guests and all that. So that's cool. I finally got it to work. But Facebook, it says we're good. YouTube, we're good. What's up, man? How's it going?
What's going on, man?
Yeah, man.
I like this new series and looking forward to, catching some of the other ones and other folks that you'll have on, but definitely it's an honor to be one of your first guests. I'll say that.
No, yeah. Listen. I'm excited to chat with you because when I decided to run for city council a couple years ago, I just had to do a bunch of research, and there wasn't much online on YouTube, but you were there. You were there. So when you ran in 2022, I think like you was the only candidate that had like a lot of content on YouTube. So I watched a bunch of your stuff, and then you moderated the Central Council forum that we had in Society Hill. So I got the chance to meet you in person, and Lisa Parker was just talking, or she said nothing but good things about you. So it was cool to finally meet you. And then we met a couple times after that. And what really made me want to have a conversation with you was because you was leaving comments on my posts. And you were fairly outspoken. And I'm just like, look, someone else in Newark that's outspoken besides me, let me have a conversation with them.
Yeah, it's part of why some folks' favorite politicians used to, and in some cases still now, chastise adults and city hall employees for speaking to people like me, because they would say, if you speak to him, he's going to make sense. And so I won't lead this conversation by making it more about names, but just about personality and people's inability to put their principles before their personality, and even in a competitive space that's really about the people and not about our individual purposes or positions.
All right, so let's start there. So I posted the flyer, and when I posted the flyer, there was a comment, and the comment said, "Who is he? What has he done for the community?" Let's just start there. How would you explain yourself? How would you explain your role, your not role, but like your position or your status in Newark politics? I know some background information. Like I know you worked during the Cory Booker administration. I know you studied in school. You studied political science. So let's just before we go on to like the deep stuff, like just give a background or just give some background on who you are and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, I encourage people. Often I find those kind of statements ironic. It's almost like it is when like a new young candidate or a new young leader comes on the scene, they say, well, what have you done? That is not a reasonable question. But when you're talking to a man that's 43 years old and that's served in 5 different directorships, and unlike many of the leaders that are in office and actually paid to do something with your tax dollars, if you're a taxpayer, and I mean property taxes, not payroll taxes, but if you're paying property taxes and you are a voter in the city of Newark, you know, most voters would know, or homeowners would know, that are engaged and active, whether they paid attention to city council meetings, whether they was reading the actual printed Star Ledger. I'll go back that far in terms of you can research me. And so that's why I encourage people to do, just like I do. When I see leaders that I may not be aware of, I'm going to do 2 things. 3 things. One, I'm going to trust my own research. 2, I'm going to speak to people who I know I can trust to give me credible information. And because I may care that much or have that much of an interest, there's this wonderful thing called Google. You even had Guac now, I think it's pronounced. It'll tell you anything about anybody you want to know that actually has something going on. Believe it or not, most of the stuff about folks like yourself and myself, 2 generations, both from Newark, when you Google yourself or me, you don't see negative things, or at least not a bunch of negative things or things that can be perceived as that. But what you do see is evidence, right, of who I am. And so I'll start with that, but I will transition to say, at 43 years old, I'll be 44 this year. I'm not proving myself to anybody. And part of that is because I don't need a person's vote. You know, going around and being a candidate can be really hard. People really want you to beg, right? And you barely have enough resources or can raise enough resources, particularly the way our community is. Majority of the resources are typically coming from corporations and the white folk, like folks wanted to used to complain about, and outside money. It's not coming from people of the community that do the most complaining or talking, whether it's $5 or $10. So the money that you need to get more people to know you, because it's not a reality for everybody to know you or know about your messaging or the word that you want to get out, to be able to compete with folks who are part of that machine. You really are locked out a bunch of resources. And again, the people who complain the most don't treat us like they treated Obama, when you would get $1 and $5 so that you can get to know who we are. And all of us don't have, I've served in 5 different directorships, and only 2 of those were on government payroll. I've had other jobs and other careers that allowed me and afforded me the opportunity to be of service to my community and many others full time. I understand people can't do that, but when you have a full-time career, which I want to connect that to elected people too. When you have a full-time career, you shouldn't be penalized for that as young people. You should see that as transferable skills that we can bring to elected seats, unlike many others that we are electing. And again, allowing to pass respectfully or just simply die in office. And then we talk about we want transformative change, and it just doesn't happen that way. So I guess the last part of the question, a little bit about who I am. I was born, and I like to say reared, in the city of Newark. My mom's side is from Princeton, Pennington Court. My father's side is from Bankston Terrace. And like many Black families, there was about 9 on one side and 9 on the other side. And like many grandmothers' stories of the city of Newark, they pretty much took care of the village on both sides. So both of my families had the opportunity to transition from the projects, both in the Central Ward and in the East Ward, also known as the Ironbound, to number blocks, when number blocks wasn't filled with guns and garbage and rats and roaches, and when elders and took pride, and when young people were required to take pride even on the number blocks. And then, having graduated from Maple Avenue School, all-star debater in 7th and 8th grade, then transitioned to Arts High School because I was getting into too many fights at the end of the year. Mark, like, you're not going a week where you're going to be fighting too much. She did want me to she was rather me go to St. Benedict's because she knew the father there or whatever. I didn't feel comfortable going to that school, so that's how I ended up at Arts High School. I was the first graduating class of the TV communication major and the first graduating class of that building. Why that's unique of the new building is because when we entered that building 9th grade year, the ventilation systems were not complete because adults allow construction workers to come in our community and misuse tax dollars. So Terrance Bankston, at 13, turning 14 years old, 2 months later, went and spoke at the school board meeting for the first time, wrote a letter to the superintendent for the first time, went and spoke at the city council meeting for the first time, and Mayor Shar James showed up to my door the next day. And the Star Ledger showed up to my home the next day to interview me and other students that I was able to put them in touch with about how we were being treated on our first day of school in a multi-million-dollar building. That also led to the Arts High and William Street being changed to Arts High Square, which this administration recently reversed that, but helping to put school pride in my alma mater, but also doing my best to be, like I said, every day a person of public service. So that's just some of what I've done besides run for office. But I think bigger than that, leading the Youth One Stop to being a flagship agency, considering to where it's been led to now, that is ironic. And I am embarrassed by that, even as a person that's not directly responsible, but as a person that loves that city and took pride again in that work. And I did have an opportunity to work under the Booker administration, but I also was a welfare worker, family service worker, they were called right after high school. So having worked with the North Ward and really just a little bit of everybody. And so again, everybody won't know everybody, but these opportunities that you create allow us to get to know each other better.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Carol said, speak, teach. Yep. Okay. So, all right. So listen. So in high school, you were, or let's just say Sharp James was the mayor when you was in high school. And then you went to college to study political science. Did Sharp James have an influence on that?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I remember about him well is that I don't know what I was thinking. That's just I've always been this ambitious person and really just proud of my city and all I wanted to do was be successful. I didn't really have an idea where I was going, but I had my grandfather Earl Johnson from Newark, New Jersey. Is the first was the first black executive of Con Edison. My other grandfather owned major businesses originally from Atlanta, Georgia, came up here to New Jersey, had a bunch of kids, moved the two youngest down to Baltimore. So I've been able to have role models in my life before Sharp James, but Sharp James used to be in my backyard with my uncle. Congressman Banks used to be in the backyard with my uncle. My aunt Kim Gaddy, who's a well-known leader here, we've been to Sharp James' house. We've been at Donald Braden's house all together. I've met with Mayor Sharp James in the basements down in the Ironbound. For those that know, you know who else would have probably been there in the Ironbound section. But I've been blessed enough and fortunate enough to be in rooms with people like him. I've always admired just the way he taught us to respect the seat. He said, you don't always have to like the person, but you ought to respect the seat. I admired him as an administrator because I saw he did what he said he was going to do. There are, other things, but I'm talking about being an administrator, which is a primary responsibility of a mayor. I mean, there's just been no one better as an administrator. I would have liked him to service us. And I don't know the different reasons why there's been many conversations and speculations, but I would have liked him to go on and be governor and not sort of get caught up so much in the local things. But I think he just had a desire and a love for Newark. And he kind of kept that here. So that also motivated me where I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to die in public office. I didn't want to leave City Hall in handcuffs. I didn't want to sort of get stuck in this being I'm always chasing something or pouring into a community that's not pouring into me. So it was important for me to look up to people like that who had a diverse portfolio, but also had, again, transferable skills that I was able to apply in different, places, even working for a university like he did, and also just being able to serve in different directorships. But one of the things that stood out to me my senior year, when he and Mildred Crump and Ron Rice Jr. Sr. was running for mayor against each other, I decided I was going to have the senior class, people basically had a competition where people became those candidates and they had to pretend to be those candidates from the moment they walked into school for like 3 months leading up to the election. Then we had the real candidates, and this is where Sharp James really, I take my hat off to him. This man showed up on also how much of a competitor he is. This thing so happened to have to get scheduled on election day of all days. Getting the candidates to agree, and I'm young, and I don't even understand most of why they even beefing the way they were. But getting them all to sign on and agreeing to election day, the adults was like, "How did you get them to come on election day?" But all showed up. Sharp James came in and saw that his billboard wasn't as decorated as the others. Right? That was because we had a hard time getting stuff from him. He walked back out to his car, came in, with rulers and folders and all his paraphernalia under his arm with his own asked for a staple, and he went to his board himself in our side atrium and redecorated, added to his board. He didn't redecorate, but he wanted more, as much stuff as the other people have. But just the three, even the three alumni, I'm still cool with them that played those characters, but seeing how they really owned it and their personalities and kept that going throughout the day, I just think those kind of memories make me think positive things of North and just how we worked with each other, back then.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I have a Sharp James experience where my grandmother, she worked the campaign office downtown on here on Broad Street. So I used to be young and I used to just be in the office when no one else was there, and I would see all the flyers and campaign posters around. So that was interesting. What? So okay, so you you go to college
Yeah.
and you return to Newark after you graduated.
I ran for school board my second year, my sophomore year, I think it was, um, or my freshman year. Somehow I'm running. No, it was my sophomore year because I was also running. Yeah, running for re-election of the student body. Somehow I got elected very early at Bloomfield as the student government president. When I went there, when I first started there as an EOF student, it was like you had to be a senior, or that's just kind of was the thing to be the president. I was elected a president by the end of my freshman year. And so my sophomore year, I had already planned to run for school board in North. I didn't think I would be running for re-election. So I was kind of running two dual campaigns at the same time, which is where that tagline in my resume comes about, being the youngest to ever seek office. That is true. I think because of the impact I've had and being able to co-author legislation outside of being a elected leader has had often out here, like a Shavar Jeffries or even a Dana Rome back in the day. Sometimes they would misspeak. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but they would say he was elected, and I never was elected, but people felt like I was. So that's I think that's a compliment all in itself as well.
So while you was in college, you knew that the goal was to come back to Newark and serve.
Well, I never left Newark. I used to get right back on the 20s. I had a rule
Mm,
that I only took classes between 10 and 2. And back then I hung out on Fabian Place a lot, and Hawthorne. So with my frat brothers from high school and things like that. And
mhm,
so I was coming home a lot. I from 10 to 2 is when I had classes. At 2 o'clock, I was getting on that 227 from Bloomfield to take the 27. That brought me
mhm.
straight down to Hawthorne Avenue and Fabian. And then I had brothers on one side and brothers on the other side. We just hung out till it was time for me to go back to school. The first time I allowed them to visit the campus, it just ended up in a whole big brawl because when we come from Newark and Bloomfield or is this, particularly when I was going there, I think a lot of people came there trying to be someone else. So if they came from like South Jersey or this, they may have came a little more tough, and Norkers, we are tough. So it's not like I try to be, and there was a conflict, and I knew then I could not. By my second semester, I was on social probation and running for school board, right? And on signed up to be an RA and all that. And I had to be on social probation because we had to come, do what we don't want to do anymore. And that's put hands on people for talking crazy. But yeah, so we have
Okay.
those stories.
All right. So you graduate. All right. So you graduate college, and was it hard to get a job while Cory Booker was the mayor, or was it easier for you because you have planted those seeds and you've been in the community?
But I didn't have a job because of a career, I should say. I was blessed enough not even have I always had jobs. I was working since I was 14. I was the associate
Mm,
director of the Old Boys and Girls Club on Hawthorne Avenue. It's called the Nan Center, or something to that degree right now.
okay.
Um, when I was 16, running the summer programs out there, had a Pepsi entrepreneur. So I always been that sort of that young spirit, just or mature spirit, however you want to call it, in terms of that. But when I was running for school board, we were at the senior building, Broad Street by Lincoln Park.
Mhm.
And it was a big debate. I'm 20 years old, so I'm the youngest, and blah 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 whatever. And I'm just doing my thing. I don't know that this is a big deal, or some people just don't like it. You know what I mean? In a sense. But Phil Elijah, who's still the chief of staff, and he was then at the time for the county of Essex, I didn't know him like that, but I had heard his name because my aunt did a lot of stuff, county, city, this. She's probably the only one that's really political on both sides of my family in terms of engaging in local or state or countywide politics. So much so that people think I'm her son, and I'm I'm not. But I used to be the one always at City Hall with her and things of that nature. So I knew who he was. But he came up to me and he gave me his card. He said, "When do you graduate?" And I told him next year. Da da da. He says, "What are you doing at the restaurant?" I said, I'm not sure. In my head, I had about 4 jobs on campus, so I just knew I was going to be working at the school after I graduated until I heard about how little money the people before me make that work there. And I'm like, oh. So fast forward to I'm graduating. So it's a few months before graduation, and my aunt Kim is like, "Hey, so what you gonna do when you graduate?" I said, "No, I'm still not sure. But I got a couple of months. It's like January. We finish in May. So I'm thinking either way I'm gonna be good." She said, "Did you call Phil Elijah?" I said, "Don't nobody keep that commitment, basically. Like, call me a year later, kind of like thing." I sent that man my email a year later. I got a phone call the next day to come to his office, and he looked up he asked somebody to look up what vacancies were that I was qualified for. Being a family service worker was one of them. I had to take a test. I took a test. I came in, I think, top 5 in the class. And I worked there until I was supposed to go on tour. I did music at the time, but around that time, my daughter's mom got pregnant. So it's like, I don't want to be on tour with a new baby. I'm not that dad at all. And so I hadn't planned for a job because I took a leave, an education leave from the county, and I wasn't planning on going back. And about a month after the election, sometime, no, maybe a week after the election, couple of weeks after the election, Corey comes to me and says, "Hey, we just won the election. You're the only ward director that hasn't asked for a job." And I said, "Well, I honestly didn't think I would need one." Long story short, I was offered either, I think it was the director of sanitation, his body person, or the director of constituent services, it was called at the time. I changed it to constituent affairs later. I took the constituent affairs job. That's the two it came down to, because his some folks on his team that were handlers wanted their people around the mayor. And for whatever reason, I wasn't held to that same standard, or that just wasn't my interest. And so I had to meet with him one day because there was a fraction that was pushing to give one person or two people my job that I was supposed to be slated for, which is director of constituent affairs, or two other people. And so he called me in his office to ask me, we want Park Place downtown, which one did I want ultimately? And I told him, and he gave me all this razzle dazzle
Wait, how old
about it.
were you again at this time? How old were you?
23,
Okay,
20, yeah,
23.
23. Because
Okay.
my birthday is late in the year, I'm always younger than everybody else. So I was born in 82, but when I graduate, I'm 23. I don't,
Okay.
whereas everybody else is like 24. You know what I mean? So I've always had been at almost a year behind type thing. But Mo Butler used to call me the youngest in charge, which made me a little uncomfortable because I knew it was a compliment, but it made other people uncomfortable by saying that. But it really was out of respect for, I just always put in the work. And so I was a person that wasn't just happy to be in the room. If I'm in the room, I'm going to shake the room. And I'm not going to shake the room for it's helping whatever the goal is, whatever my primary role is. So when he said that to me, I said, "Corey, if you want me to, it's a waste of my talent for me to ride around in your car with you and taking notes. That's one. Two, I could do that, like that's nothing." So then I said, "If you want to take me to the White House, which is supposed to be a big selling point, that's not something that's impressive to me. I'm the kind of person, I don't even feel like being bothered with that. You know what I mean? Type thing. Or why are we going again? So I'll like it, but not under those circumstances. I don't need that. You know what I mean? So I said to him, if you want to take, you're the mayor. If you want to take me to the White House, you can do that, period. I don't have to be your body person." That's when it was over, and I was handed over to director. I was given the title that before I walked out that office. And so it worked out. And those positions that I was able to do in the city of New York, which was leading his constituent affairs office, building it out as well, but also getting to run the one stop, has prepared me to do a life of work that's put me in just about every major black city around this country. That's what I get to when I'm not home in Newark. That's what I'm doing. I'm engaging with nonprofits just like the ones I grew up being a part of, and some of them I helped found it. I'm helping other people in other communities that appreciate it. But more importantly, I'm getting something out of it because I'm being developed. I'm gaining personally and professionally. That wasn't happening in Newark or New Jersey. I'm giving in Newark. I'm giving in Essex County. I'm giving. Not just if I work, I'm supposed to be paid, going to be paid. But there's many times where this is thankless work and volunteer work. And I just feel like in New Jersey, particularly, we'll plant a seed, but then we'll put a rock over it. And that's why our young people are not thriving and they're going instead of growing and giving back into the community that they paying taxes in. And then I realized and woke up and said, well, wait a minute, I don't have to lose the connection to my community. I can still get back from my community. I've raised, when 3 years ago, I wrote a $1.2 million grant for women for green job exposure and training and parent coaching in the South Water North. So for the past 3 years, when I see folks online talking about, what does he do? What does he do? None of you have wrote a 1 point anything, let alone did it as an independent agent that had nothing to do with the local government. But local government officials showed up for the press conference. They took photos. But so when even the elected officials try to discredit or ignore and use that to, I guess, gaslight people in the public, it goes back to what I said earlier. That's why I'm at a place where a point where just by nature and maturity, I'm not proving anything to anybody. And I'm also not having discourse with people that are not willing to do their homework or research.
Love that, man. I think that's where I'm at too as well. I think I wasted a lot of time just talking to people who just, like you said, don't want to educate themselves or don't want to do the research, and it's just a lot of time wasted.
Tell you what it is. Like I remember having the biggest debate after the South, what was that, the 2022 one? So it was me and Pat and the other Southwood folks, and we believe in the church. And honestly, I mean, it's on YouTube. I think I performed quite well. And so I would like to say I kicked his butt on there, and that annoyed some people. And unlike maybe some of the other debates, this wasn't as hostile. I felt like for the most part, I'm very comfortable in all 5 wards, but I'm also very comfortable in my ward. And I think that if you treat people with respect, they will treat you with respect. So in this, I felt good. I came outside, I'm standing outside, we're talking, we're shaking hands. And there was elders who really just, some Muslim brothers, older guys, like they've been through some things, been around for a while. They were very adamant that the feds raiding the rec centers was made up. For me to have to sit in front of a church of all things, St. John's Church, where I grew up around, on Bergen Street, and debate with someone about, after I just came up this great debate talking about real issues, talking about giving y'all truth. And then what it told me is that that's what the leaders are telling them. And they just believe it. They don't do it that can't be made up. You know what I mean? Now, who's responsible and who was selling, that's not what I'm getting into. The fact is that drugs were sold in the rec center. The internet doesn't match what should be on it. Who's managing what?
Yo, Terrance, listen.
So that's just an example.
No. Wait, how much time do you have with us? It's 9 o'clock right now. Do you have to 10?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, cool. So we're going to get into all that. I'm just trying to
now I'm in Houston, so we don't like to go nowhere until the sun is all the way gone.
All right.
And I'm here in Jersey, it's been more like that too. I was there for like 40 some days. I'll be back there for another stretch. It felt like I was in Houston again.
Yeah, all right. So we're going to get into that. I'm just trying to, all right. So number one, I'm trying to learn some things and I want the audience to learn as well. So let's just go back to the Cory Booker years, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were working in City Hall or working for the city during the Cory Booker years. Mm-hmm. What do you say to the people who think, or some people know, that they say that Cory Booker sold the city out? What do you say to that? Especially as someone,
because if somebody sells something, it has to be a transaction. Where did it go?
To his campaign donors. Let's just say that. Let's just all right. Look, right, here's the narrative, right? So the narrative is that you have.
I read campaign reports, so I can comment on that.
Huh?
I read campaign reports, so I don't mind commenting on that.
All right, cool. So you're the perfect person to have this conversation. Right. So the narrative is that Sharp James during the 90s was really loud and adamant about how great Newark is and all the resources we have. He was at the White House with Bill Clinton, like he was everywhere talking about Newark. And then there were some people out there who were eyeing Newark, so they sent Cory Booker here to basically privatize our resources. So apparently the deal was, listen, Cory, we're gonna give you some campaign cash, and
Mhm.
then once you get in office, we're gonna get the contracts. Not only are we gonna get the contracts, we're gonna get the land, we're gonna privatize the schools, we're gonna try to privatize the water. As someone who has been in Newark and been politically involved since Sharp James, can you explain those accusations?
Or some of them are sentiments, right? And some of those are a continuum about how we choose to do business in North, and really throughout the state. It's not. It's a reason why when we talk about sentiments, people say, or it's often ranked by data, that New Jersey is one of the corrupt states in the country. There's a reason for that.
And you're
People make
saying
things are
sentiments,
not corrupt by themselves, right? So, wait, I'm sorry.
and you're saying sentiments because you're saying this is how people feel and that they don't
I
have
think
no data
it's
to
a
support this.
combination of things. Yeah, and I think sentiment is a. I'm not discounting the word accusation, but if I use the term sentiment versus accusation, maybe I'm not feeding into why public figures get so pissed off personally when the public criticizes them. That's what you get paid for. You work for them. The idea that once you get you sign your paperwork, or you get your first city hall check, that all of a sudden you the queen and king of Zamunda. I disagree with that. I think you got to become even more humble once you get those type of opportunities to work. So when I go back to Sharp James, I think that error, from what I recall, and the elders that would speak to me that loved Sharp James, but also was critical of him, and when they needed to be. He would I would say the focus more on, particularly coming after Gibson, he focused more on developing water and bricks, mainly downtown, than people. And because one was chosen over the other, it's almost like when I tell people the government structured us to choose between what's more valuable to us, or what they will give us more resources for, clean air or clean water, as if we don't have the right to both and deserve both. They make us choose. That's why it's separate conversations around shipping, for example, and port advocacy. And so I don't think that was intentional for Sharp James to do that. But I remember one thing that he said to me. He said, Terrance, yeah, man, he was in Robert Treat. He said, you gotta understand something. He said, you are out process the process. And I fell out laughing because everybody say I'm process driven person or whatever. So for him to say that, and I think he's a process driven person, I thought that was funny. He said, you gotta understand this. He said, Newark ain't nothing but a small country town. That's all it really is. And what he was saying is that the same way people up north have a perception that people down south are slower, and that when we go down there visit, but they gonna come in here with that city boy stuff. He said we got some slow people up here. Now, but what most people don't know, I don't know what age or generation it is that shocks them when I share with them that Sharp James is not a native of North. He's from Florida. So his perception is even coming from the Florida man that was educated, that was a genius, that was top tier in his field, that came up here, and he's assessing us. Because what he was saying is, y'all okay with the guns and garbage and the rats and roaches. He said, not on my block, though. He said, not on the block of these districts and that district, but as a whole, with all that black power in the South Ward, where is the development? Why is it taking so long? Why is it trickle down? Anybody that's black that comes from any era back from that civil rights era, trickle down is not something you should be teaching us or perpetuating in our era. You should be passing the mantle at this point, if we're dealing that. And so a lot of what people some of what people criticize, because I don't have those specific things in front of me. I would like to have specific conversations, this, that, and the other. But the way government works in general, same things happening under this mayor. Some of what you saw come to fruition was already in play. The Prudential Center having his butt turned to the city was already, we didn't do that. Booker didn't do that. Terrance damn sure didn't do it. But let me tell you what someone tried to do. These are people who have been here and people who were coming in. They tried to privatize the one side. Once Cory Booker went off doing his thing, if they want to talk about privatization, some of the same day tried to force me to sign off on privatizing the North Youth One Stop, and I would not do it. That's part of the reason why I left the city. When I would not do it, some of those same people, not Cory Booker, some of those same people who were coming in and had already been there wanted to offer me what's called a no-show job at the port, and I would not take it because they wanted. No, I would not take period because when I go to work, I want to go to work. That's one. Two, when you they were not going to for about a year or two into Baraka's term, they still had my city cell phone on and it was in their possession. For a year or two, they still had people thinking I was working at the one stop because they wanted people like Arcelio Ponte and others to have the authorization to sign off on stuff and then blame Terrance Bankston for it later. Absolutely not. So from 2013, I decided I was never going to work for government again unless I was in a position of power to check and correct those things that many people complain about being exposed to. And I'm not one I don't have many stories like that because my character speaks for itself. But in those situations, no, it was not the mayor. It was people who had been here before and people on their way in.
So you
Now,
don't
I would say
believe
the same thing about Ras Baraka. Some people are going to say the mayor is the most progressive, one of the top 10. Compared to who? Now, that's not to discredit it, but who defines what progressive is nowadays? Because I'm concerned if what I am experiencing in Newark is considered progressive leadership, comparable here or comparable to anywhere across this country. I just don't see progressive. I think we just use terms because it feels good and it sounds good. I don't think anyone from those eras of leadership, not even Cory, progressive, is it mean doing something different or is it making it better for the people that are there? Progressive means to me that you are in tune with what the community needs and wants because they are a part of that process. That you are as these black folks like the Harambe and Kujijagali and all of this nonsense and environmental justice principles, all of these things come into play until you're in those decision-making rooms, and all of a sudden those things go out the window. You are making decisions for us without the majority of us. And say, for example, I represent 30% of the voter base in Newark. That's a hard enough percentage to get to. It's not always about numbers in this game. It's about percentages. 30% of the public is saying we want this type of leadership, and you don't have that in your administration or cabinet evidence anywhere. Not elected, not appointed, nowhere. Everybody walks to the beat of the same drum and gives themselves congratulations parties. We are done a great job parties until we see the camera footage that shows you what they really think of themselves. Until you actually ride through the South Central and West Ward and then go compare it to the East and the North Ward. When you actually visit the senior site centers, as I've been saying for the past couple of months, reminded folks of that. It's been like that for a long time. The way our schools and the way our centers are treated in the South Central and West Wards are pale in comparison to the East and the North, from the lighting to the programming. That's been happening since I was a child. That has not under Cory Booker, what has happened under this current administration. Because I'll tell you this, before Cory Booker would allow a summer program to fail, and it wouldn't fail under my leadership as it did, it excelled while still maintaining the same integrity that people like Donna Jackson, when she was in it, and it was called the Speedy Program, admired about it. But it took it, it elevated it, it enhanced it, and it did so with me having the largest staff back then because of stimulus dollars, 86 Norkers, and 18 of them was full-time. The oldest one was Minnie Allen. I think she was 80-something there. And then the youngest staff person that's working part-time is about 18. That didn't count the 2,600 or the 32, when it jumped to 3,200 summer youth employees from 14 to 24 that we had during the summer. And so we saw a thriving program, even when we got stimulus, an influx of program of money. We saw a thriving program when the transition was happening from Sharp James to Cory Booker, and that team decided to leave the transition high and dry, and students did not get paid for several weeks. So we know what it's like to step into the fire and correct it. That would be my experience. But I can say also about Cory Booker, he would just raise the money first. And so people say, well, these people came in and brought him in. One of the blackest people I know and blackest trailblazers I know brought Cory Booker here. Make no mistake about it. His name is Carl Sharif.
Carl Sharif,
That is how Cory Booker got connected to the Jews and all this. People ain't afraid of Cory Booker money when they
Oh.
taking it from him. People ain't afraid. People not talking about Cory Booker security guards the way they were talking about him before when he was raising the money for the overtime. And so, if it's not coming from the city budget and he's paying for it, is that a problem? But now what? That's not what's happening now.
Mm.
And so you have no real recreation programs. Where's the robust calendar of events? Where's all those? We didn't just do turkeys and toys. We had community engagements, and Booker had unlimited turkeys and toys. He was raising $7 million, more than the governor. But when you talk about, compare his elect reports from back when he was mayor to the current mayor's elect reports. You don't think they're getting some of the same funding? Cory Booker runs New
Yeah,
Jersey.
for sure. Yeah,
So when it comes
absolutely.
to that, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what, like, people can try to pretend to make him the boogeyman all he want. Only in Newark. I'm not saying he was perfect.
Mhm.
But Lord, but I'm not here to discuss his imperfections. Now, if somebody wants me to comment on something I know about that specific, but you're not gonna make me see him with a man. You're not gonna make me see him not living on Hawthorne Avenue. These things were true. I never
Mm.
saw him with a man. I've only saw him. What you gonna tell me with light woman, a white woman? Yes, I can see. I can speak to that. When people get into that sensational stuff or that ambiguous stuff and it's not specific, I don't like to entertain that. What I will entertain is that person gave me a job opportunity that other Black people here would not have. And it would have been probably out of bitterness, jealousy, or because I will not sit at work with a shotgun at the back of my head and show up to your campaign headquarters when I don't want to. So he did something because he was this rock star. He allowed this person that lived on Share Avenue, that again, parents came from Bankston and Penitent Court, to take on roles in this city that helped make the city better, not worse. For that, I'm thankful for that. Other people wasn't looking, they wouldn't have been looking for me. Remember, the career from before came from Phil Elijah. The same people, when they want to black or white us, you can't black or white me or black and Puerto Rican me. No one here in the equation that's on the chessboard, off the chessboard, is more Newark than I am, whether you know me or not. That's how I feel about that. So I will give, I give all of that up. I think the people have failed Newark, if anything, not the past
Mm.
years.
Listen, that's great. Thank you for clearing that up because that's all I've been hearing for the past 3 years is that Cory Booker sold this out. He brought the outsiders in there. They
If
want to
we were doing
privatize
so great,
everything.
we wouldn't have needed a Cory Booker. Cory Booker was elected in this city not once, not twice, but overwhelmingly. Numbers don't
Mm.
lie. He didn't get elected with 11,000 votes.
Mm.
I mean, what you?
All right, all right, all right, all right. So can I say this? I understand that there was like we had issues with our economy in 2008 with the housing crisis, so that affected things. But do you agree that what these mayors care about more is the development of constructions and new buildings than actually the development of residents? And you can even argue this back to the Sharp James days. Like, do you think that's the top priority because their perception is how they are perceived, or they're more worried about how they're perceived to outsiders more than how they're perceived to the actual residents?
You know what's weird? You don't really get to know these people. That's what makes it weird. But back in the day, even though people were competitive, like the Betsy Walkers, the this, and then you got the eras of the Dana Rolls, Rice Juniors, and things like that. There always was this little competition. There always was some shade here, a little shade there. But people, like, there was times where everything wasn't just that. It wasn't so contentious. This has been the most contentious I've seen the city, and I think a lot of that is because um, this energy of this administration is make or break you. And but they only want to talk to themselves. So they're communicating or engaging with just the 30% that we used to call the subculture of North. The folks that we grew up around, we hang around, but that's not all of what Newark is. And so when we see that all these resources are being taken from, say, youth who don't have three barriers, who are not high school dropouts, also pregnant, and not able to pass the TAB test, the basic skills 8th grade test. Every kid shouldn't have to have that to get a summer job or to get academic enforcement or support from this city. And so I'll say in another way, we've heard this before. You can best judge a city or the intent of its leaders by how it treats its children and its seniors. I will leave it to the children and seniors to tell us how they feel about living in the city of Newark. And for us not to just talk to the ones that show up at the mayor's man's meeting, which I think is good for him to entertain those things. However, not just those people. Just talk to random people from throughout the city and see how they feel. Talk to the seniors about when they're getting mediocre meals or basic programming. Talk to the homeowners who's saying, I'll take my youth out of here because there's nothing in this city for them. I just come here and live in this house. And that's about it. And me and my wife or me and my kids, we go to work, we come home, we go to school, we come home, and that's it. So that's one part of it. What their intent is, I wish going forward that two things can probably happen. When people run for office, I would like to give them I would like them to be required to take a psych test and a competency test, because there's no requirement for how smart you have to be or not to work in these positions. And the reality of it is, it's not about having degrees, but it is about being willing to be self-educated, to also engage people in a way where you see the reward and the value in working with the people that you claim that you love and you claim that you serve. The reason why the things that I've done have been able to be successful, whether it's the one stop or whether it was the work I'm doing now, is because I include the people. And sometimes I don't just go get my friends. That would never work. If I need my friend for something, I'm gonna call them. But if I need my friend, I need them, and I'm putting them not on burgers if they belong on fries, as I said many times that we have a problem with doing. So I don't know. People need to get to know their elected officials, understand what their character is. What do they really want out of life? Because their character is going to drive who they are in those different rooms. What excited me about your race is because it reminded me a lot of myself. I think I shared that with you in a sense that it's not always about winning, and don't let people back you down or talk you or discourage you about that. Somebody's going to lose. But if you in the finals, if you getting them endorsements, they're going to keep growing. You're going to become somebody's favorite team, but at least you're being discussed. But what you're doing that's bigger than that, and that's part of the sacrifice of running for office when you are independent or don't have this big machine or whatever it is. People just, when you really got to think and have your own brand, right, and build out your own coalitions, you are drawing attention to this subject matter. You are bringing people to the conversation that wasn't in the conversation before. None of my peers gave two shits about politics. It's only because I'm in it do they even pay attention. But my peers didn't care about that. Now that they are fathers and mothers and they paying taxes and careers matter and salaries matter and they're looking around their neighborhood, now they care about who's elected. Now they call me Terrance. Who's my the person on my ward type of thing. I mean, I get calls from East Orange all over about those things. It's not just about North. So the short answer is I don't know what they think. It's not what they promise on their literature, but that's most politicians. I think it's more so about it's really more so personal in that way. I think if we're going to put people in office and in public positions, we need to know a little more about their character and be willing to ask those questions or see it example. Right now, I'm still not seeing evidence of that, even if the intent is as well. Like, one thing I wouldn't be doing, you wouldn't see on my elect report if I was actively in office, money from the landlords that have rats and roaches infesting their buildings. I'm not going to take the money. In fact, I'm going to have code enforcement on you so relentlessly, so y'all you're going to dislike me. But see, we are okay with the majority of the public not voting because they're not excited about any other candidates, the ones they know or the ones they don't know.
So, all right. So let me ask you, right? Because the elect reports do tell a lot. So, if you were to compare the elect reports from Sharp James to Cory Booker to the current mayor, you're saying that the current mayor has the fishiest elect reports out of all three. Because again, the narrative is
way more diverse. You can't even, the kind of money he raises on Cory Booker, it was a political rock star when he came here.
Mhm.
But he also had less work experience than me and you when he became mayor. He had only been council person before that. His job before that was a paralegal. Many of us can't afford to go stay in the projects for free as a
Mhm.
part of our passion. But he did it. He put in this. He made sacrifices. I'm not. I can't. If you don't like where his money come from, don't take his burgers. Don't take his hot dogs. When that man come to Newark, they treat him like a rock star. When that man was running in Newark, they was giving him 40,000 votes and this and that. I mean, just you
Mhm.
can't. The people that are critical, and I believe that is a place for that. If you don't want this money coming to your community, but be consistent about that. You know, some people will say Sharp James hid the white people and Cory Booker showed you them. And now they
Mm.
being hidden again. But they're there.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Listen, you
And the
making me
lower
re
and the lower these votes go, you are looking at perpetuating the next mayor being white. If people don't want that, or do you don't care what color
Mm.
it is as long as it's a good mayor. But
Not on my
where
watch, man.
where black numbers are going now, that's what we are being set up for. So who's responsible for that? Cory Booker? Sharp James?
Mm.
No. The county? You gonna blame them? Or if it is it Leroy J. No, Jones, whatever his name is? Y'all don't talk.
All right. Yeah, Jhamar
I don't
said.
have issues with these people. These people have issues with these people. But then when I'm doing work in the city, like I've always done, they want to try to discredit me, and that's where I draw the line. And that's when I give people a name. It's never
But
personal.
listen, but listen, you do have to understand the narrative that these people are using these positions to make themselves rich and make their friends rich. Again, Sharp James had a purple Rolls Royce and a yacht. Apparently, he had a mansion down in South Jersey. Cory Booker, he had like Cory Booker, deputy mayor, went to prison, right? Went to jail, like one of those people.
A
So it's like,
deputy mayor went to prison under the mayor, but that deputy mayor was well connected to the city way before we knew who a Cory Booker was. They
mm,
just had. So if I came in and stole you from the one stop, you gonna blame Cory Booker? No, I stole money from the one stop. I should be ashamed of myself as a person that grew up in the city talking about I care about you. I should be ashamed of that. The people, the code enforcement people that's going down there shaking down businesses and closing them down in our community instead of up in these buildings that's infested with rats and roaches, they shaking down. They should be ashamed of themselves. The issue that this mayor has is that it's a pattern of behavior. It's a pattern of behavior. And that's outside of any, particular personal, recent thing I have to deal with
damn.
one of the brothers. But outside of that, I've said that. And what that was evident on what I'm talking about. You cannot take this ghetto mentality everywhere you go. And just because you don't like somebody, you jealous of them, especially as a man. Men don't even like that when women do that. But for men to be that way, absolutely absurd.
No, we
Real
about
men,
to get.
if that men
Listen,
don't want problems with people for no problem, especially personal. But you're not going to bully me to not doing work or talking or speaking about the business affairs of my city.
yeah, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. We're going to spend the last end of the stream talking about that. I just wanted to talk about Cory Booker specifically initially because I hear a lot of stuff about him. I hear a lot of
Well,
stuff.
a lot of the current mayor's people.
Oh man, Terrance left, but this is a good chat, yeah. I think he's gonna come back. Um, this is good talking to Terrance because he's adding a context. A lot of people they complain about Cory Booker and they say he just came into our city to get what he want. He used us, took advantage of us, and like that probably could be true, but also
Check.
he's back. I can hear you. I can't see you.
Okay, let me turn it. I had to switch cameras because the computer needs to charge. But hold on 1 second.
It's all good. I'm gonna keep chatting. Yeah, like this is cool because he's adding a context that I didn't have. Like when I was running these past 3 years, I didn't have any Cory Booker support or anyone related to Cory Booker. So I just was listening to stories from people who've been here telling me things about Cory Booker. But
Cory Booker people too busy supporting Ras Baraka people.
yeah, I noticed that. I
So
noticed that.
they playing nice with each other now. That's how it goes.
But doesn't Cory Booker ruin his legacy by doing that? By being associated to the current administration?
I don't think he's viewed as associated. To me, if I'm looking at it as a fan of the sport, Cory Booker is running these local politicians,
Yep.
not just in Newark, a bunch of other places too, in a positive way. Like he's he's the U.S. senator, and he has the biggest fundraising capacity out of everybody. Here, the only other person that's going to out. Well, I'm talking about black politicians.
Mm-hmm.
And then remember, Cory Booker doesn't really. He never really locked in as being connected to Newark outside of just what people that know they know. He's not like me and Roz and Pat and a bunch of other ones. We are Newark natives. You know what I'm saying? Our birth certificates say Newark.
Yep.
So it's much, much, much different.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. But at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
someone needs to take responsibility for the way the city is now. And you can argue that the current conditions were set up by actions that were made 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So I'm
And
just trying
really
to
for
come
the
down
past
to
30 years, that's the part that it's really it is the legacy of black leadership. But I'm suggesting that it's totality versus any one particular mayor.
yeah. All right. So it's basically the systems and the culture, which I've been trying to campaign on, but I feel like that's too big of a it's too conceptual just to tell residents our systems are bad and our culture is bad. I think now when you come back on camera, I think now we could talk about the
I'm
examples
trying to get
of
it to do it.
those, because now you're talking about people selling drugs in our recreation centers, bullying, like that. Like that's TV show stuff, man.
I call it politics and hip hop New Jersey. It is definitely reality TV show type energy. I may have to go out and come back in. Hold on a
That's
second.
all good. Yeah, for sure. You could do that. I'll keep the chat here. Listen, this is a great conversation. Thank y'all for tuning in. My plan every week is to do two of these live streams, one on Tuesday where I interview a guest, and one on Thursday where it's just me sharing my screen and we learn about a topic or I share stories or something. So this is the first week. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'm using this new platform. I'm paying $20 a month. It allows me to stream to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So this was the first night. I can see the comments here, but I don't know if it shows all the comments. So if y'all commented on Facebook or YouTube, some of them are showing up, but not all of them. Terrance is cool, man. Terrance ran for city council in 2022. He's from Newark. He worked for the city while Cory Booker was there. So this is a great conversation. Now we're just about to get into him running for council, and I'm gonna ask him about Donna Jackson and the current youth program, the youth jobs now. So he's back. There he is.
I just had to switch cameras. The charge.
Now you're good. You're good. So again, all right. So listen, you mentioned that when you ran for city council,
Mhm.
that all right. So let me just give you some context. Like when I was running, I thought that if I just share the truth with residents, there would be at least 15,000 residents out there who were sensible, who would say, you know what? This man is preaching the most sensible message out there. So I'm going to tell the truth. Everything that I'm noticing, I'm going to tell the truth, not really to expose it, but to let residents know like what is going on. Like I wasn't trying to be TMZ. I love my city and I'm like, this is messed up. I'm going to share the truth. But then they flipped it on me and was like, I'm trying to attack the black man. I'm being controversial. I'm like, this stuff is public record. I'm not making any of this stuff up. But now you're saying that in 2022, you're at a debate and you are talking about drugs being sold in a recreation center, and then you have people coming up to you.
There was some community leaders. They meant this with love. They said I was too prepared.
To prepare for the debate?
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Y'all want?
Wait, what do you think they meant by that?
I wouldn't take my foot off Pat's neck, and I was relentless about the truth. I was respectful about the truth. I was tasteful about my responses to the shady stuff they were saying and untrue. See, when I get up there, I don't have to lie. They have to lie and be scandalous. And then that's when the Scorpio in me comes up and it's like, okay, now we're going to put truth to power and I'm really going to get in that ass like that. So it's like, I think it's some of that. And they expect for us to be play stupid. I'm not going to play stupid. Two people playing stupid, a group of people playing stupid. This is why I'm living. I'm making as much money as I'm making, but I'm living in this big house with the backyard and this. I'm spending 40 almost 5,000 a month just on living in on my block. Walk out to Hawthorne Avenue, walk out to Clinton Avenue is devastation. Devastation the past 3 years, devastation the past 10 years. It's worse. It's not better. It's worse. Anybody will tell you that it's worse. Whether you go back to Gibson administration, folks who are still in City Hall, working in City Hall somewhere from Gibson, Sharp, Booker, what will they tell you? They not saying that. I hear it where I'm going. It's consistently, no matter who you speak to, age bracket, they all say it's the most ghetto that institution or entity has operated. Being deaf, dumb, and blind to that is the problem. So that's going to be offensive to people. And with Norkers, we just speak a certain way. So if it ain't you're doing a great job, they don't want to hear it. Is that your problem? No, because you also got to think about your brain and intent and your character. And think about even again, Mayor Bras Baraka. He didn't come out winning the first time he came out when he graduated. He was running for mayor, I think, at first. Then he started at large, and it took several times for him to say, "Well, okay, now it's 2000 and I think that was 10. I'm a run for South Ward council person." He had been former political director from back in the day when he was running Sharp stuff, and he was dealing with a lot of the this is and that's and who was running and who Sharp ticket was, and also did some of that for Booker. He was trying to get Mayor Barack to run for councilman way back when. I don't know what his real reason was. What I heard is that he thought the seat was beneath him. Did that make sense to me? Yes. Not beneath, maybe in a little way, because really the ward council person is the more powerful seat. However, when you think about at large and depending on your perspective, you're thinking, well, I'm at large, so now that's the next step for me to be mayor. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Just because somebody elects you at large don't mean that they want you to be their mayor. We've seen many instances of that when folks wanted folks to be senator, but not their mayor. Folks wanted you to be the first black councilwoman elected at large, but not their mayor. And so for everybody has had that experience. For the younger generation, because they don't teach us how to run for office, they do what Sharp James suggested, break you out the habit of running. You have to say, well, I'm going to just be relentless about building my base, but it doesn't happen overnight. Now, for some people, it do. A young lady, 33 years old, I actually just hired her part-time to work for me at Friends of the Earth, but she is got elected mayor of a town, Fort Valley, Georgia. She second time running for office. She just had the desire to want to do it. So she left her job working for a nonprofit down in in Savannah, Georgia. That's how I met her. She ran for council. It's a college town, so she went to university there. That's how she is there and have roots there, but she's from another part of Georgia. Long story short, she ran for the council seat. She lost it, but this past time, she ran for mayor and she beat the mayor the first time, old infrastructure, and the second time in the runoff. She is now the mayor of Fort Valley, Georgia. And she didn't have all the experience in the world. But what she did was, she said, "Can I come?" She said, "I just need one favor." This was actually her birthday was yesterday. So this was this time last year. She said to me, "I just want to come to Houston because when you come visit, you always with everybody else. I don't get one-on-one time." So I didn't know what she meant at first. So then I'm like, okay, sure. She said, "No, I want to spend my birthday with you because I want to pick your brain." And we did. We hung out, but for most times we were on my balcony outside, and she was just asking me every question she could about running for office. And I was willing to offer her that for free, right? Because normally I get paid to do that. That's not my full time, that's side work. But normally I would get paid for that. But I'm sharing something, my gift with her, and she's doing something for me because I'm now making an inroad in Fort Valley, Georgia, which only helps the work I do in Georgia, period. And so everybody's story will be a little different, but being consistent to who you are is going to take you the furthest. I've never had to beg government for a job. I don't need government to survive for a job. I'm in the same rooms politicians are in, those that are favorite and not favorite. But I don't ever feel like the work I'm doing is requiring me to compromise myself because I have to engage in terms of politics, which for me is just anything relevant to government.
So what did you learn when you ran in 2022?
It's a lot of work.
Hmm.
It's a whole lot of work, and I don't appreciate when they do that thing and they pay all these people and they sell out for. When you talk about selling out, talk about the black nonprofit leaders that sell out for smoke shops that they don't even put in the ward, but they'll sell out in exchange for political favor. They do this thing where they'll pay these people or require these people. Some of the people don't even know. Put their face all on it. They nonprofit leaders. They this. They that. There are people that talk the most crap about some of these same people, but for their common good and for their special interest, all those people that be on those flyers. And I'm not saying everyone is a this or that, because some of them I talk to. Sometimes they be like, "Hey, I ain't got nothing to do." No, but I'm gonna speak about the flyer. If it's going to because the flyer did something to me, that is a form of bullying and jumping. Anytime you got to go get Congress people and senators and this one and that one to jump on little old me, little old you, little old whoever else is trying to do something, it tells you what their intent is right there. So when you
But
give that same energy back,
why can't the public see it though? Like that's my whole thing is that why isn't this obvious?
I think they do see it, but some of the people that stay home that's not voting, you got to understand too, there's a third of those people that really don't know who you or me are at all, no matter how much. What you have to do to penetrate that way, Cory Booker was able to do that because he was spending the kind of money that the Democratic Party spends when the president runs or the governor runs. So he's reaching out to a larger demographic that lives in North that vote like he thinks.
Mm-hmm.
You see, they allow him. North, there's a lot of North. Cory Booker has a big fan base in North.
Mm-hmm.
It's just consistently the same, right? And so when you have more resources, you have and special interests, you have more money to compete. Until we have campaign finance laws that restrict people, that government pays for everybody that gets certified to run for office, and maybe you can't loan more than this. I don't know. You can come up with a few different things, but until it's a fair plan thing like that, it's always going to be a struggle. What I will say is I never fell off in the ward. So whatever I was getting in one ward, I would get in other wards. So testing my goals were different. When you're out there, you're not like, oh, I'm not going to win this time. Who the campaigns like that? You can't. But I have to be the operative and the candidate. That's part of what takes a lot of work because it's exhausting. The number one job of a candidate is to raise money. And when you can't raise money, you have to leverage other resources and skills of other people to provide what you can't pay for. But imagine that in the South Ward, for example, is the largest voter base in the state of New Jersey, single voter base in the state of New Jersey. I share this with folks to give some context. You brought up the Cory Booker race. When you look at and that trend, so say after Louis was in office and now the mayor runs for this mayor, Baraka runs for the first time and wins. And so him and Louis had close to the same amount of votes that time. I think it was like 13 or 14 or something like that, very similar, which was a little alarming to people. But the voters were telling you something right there. If they're communicating with, so then you have this other block, right? They're communicating with the people who they think is going to win. So sometimes voters are just turned up because they don't think there's a chance in hell you're going to win. People really believe that their vote don't count, but they also not going out and getting 10 more people. They ain't that mad. It takes a national, and so those who are incumbents and who do maybe who blend in, I'll say it that way, or who do the bare minimum, or just who don't engage that much with the larger population, it benefits them to have a lower voter turnout because in a lower voter turnout, the person with the name recognition typically wins. What you saw with Donna Jackson is not just some alliances she was able to put together. It's her being consistent for most of my life. And look, she just got elected. So there were some people who thought it was impossible, and then there were some people who thought it was the impossible dream and that it was attainable. Both groups, look. Now, what has that done? More people are galvanizing around her to support her than was before. So it's all about time and it's all about consistency. I would just say if this is what you desire, you focus on it because if you attain to be mayor, there's probably nothing that you can't attain in between. But I would say just commit to it and be consistent because this board, there'll be a manufactured candidate that'll pop up out of nowhere. There's talk now, for example, that the mayor may be retiring or is retiring. And I kept hearing it more and more and more. There's retirement with no transition plan, and if it's a transition plan, y'all not included.
Yeah. I mean, all right. So I want to talk about Donna Jackson. I want to
Yeah.
close off by talking about Donna Jackson, but let me go back to you running for city council in the South Ward, in that debate when you are exposing the drug dealing that's happening in the rec centers. But then fast forward to, I was watching an interview with you and Shakima where you were talking about how you was attacked. Do you think that that attack was retribution from you being so outspoken?
I
Because
think I
because
think
I
he was.
received threats as
I
well.
honestly don't know because I I was chilling this time. I think people just jealous because I will not disappear. I will not go anywhere, and I think they are on hard drugs, and they mix that with hard liquor. That's what I think. I think people are crazy and they need help, and
But
I
was
don't
it
know. I think, and I'm
retribution because
small
you was
frame, so some people
outspoken?
that don't really know me probably think you can just bully me randomly. But for this person to do this out of nowhere in this particular time was strange. So yeah, I do. I think it's indicative of the three brothers, which is why I'm addressing. I'm addressing and will address all three. I definitely think it's a connection, and we have some other information that I can't share because it is a
Yeah.
legal matter. Well, I think that yes, I think that the mayor is definitely has responsibility. The mayor's office, period, has responsibility in terms of me being attacked in public by Obalaji Baraka. I think that the human resources director has responsibility. I think some of the council people have responsibility, particularly those that are assigned to the Baraka team, because he mentioned those things. I don't have a political history or political context with him at all. He doesn't even come up in a room that I'm ever in, ever. I mean, even
But
this
during that
had
debate, but during that debate, you admitted to speaking on it, right?
according to him, he don't sell drugs in the rec center, but that was years ago, and you done shook my hand and complained about your brothers to me since then. So what I'm saying, I don't have
Mm.
these three individuals have never been. I don't let people get aggressive with me, okay? But they never was like that. It's high and by when I see them usually respect. This one, I think he was sent by someone, and that'll
Mm.
play out in it. And he was dumb enough and allegedly high enough to do something that no one should ever do, particularly people that work for the city. The fact that these folks don't get, and this is somebody old enough to be a grandfather, and I guess because he thought he was going to take advantage of me, and that didn't happen. That's why you don't see them laughing and bragging about it. But when I stood up and addressed him about it, and said, you know what, I am going to do this documentary project, but it ain't going to just be about him. It's a you going to be you the motivation for you the first episode. Now,
Well, all right. So also in the interview, you said that you didn't want to, like, you didn't want to speak too much on it because you didn't want to ruin the election. My question to you: why didn't you
not
ruin the
ruin. I did
election?
not want what you said they tried to do to you. I am a public figure for real. My votes do not come out the mayor's.
Hmm.
So with the people, with my base that I move, that I cultivate, and even me being a stakeholder in New Jersey, I'm on a governor board when he did this, appointed board.
Mm.
I'm there for that work. I work for a $17 million federal agency. I'm there for that work. That's who you're touching.
Mm.
Or
Yeah.
you think you can put in a situation for me to lose what I have by getting in the gutter with you, elder of the community trying to drag me in the gutter with me because he think because of my weight side he was able to bully me. But again, I see this coming from out of nowhere because there was no reason that I wouldn't speak to him. In fact, I would have thought that would have been rude of me. But
Mm.
if you don't want to be spoken to for what, I don't even need to know the reason.
Yeah.
But so it was really like one of those setup things that he thought he could, I just think he could get away with. And there's this hood mentality that if I pick a fight with you and you press charges on me and I press charges on you, then we just gonna let it go away. No, we're not gonna do that. You are a repeat offender and you're going to jail for 3 months because you need to be set down.
Listen, for everyone who needs some context on what Terrance is talking about, go to his Facebook page and it's on his pinned post. He explains everything there. So, all right. So Law asked the question. Let's go to. She said, Was Cory Booker a plant, or did he genuinely care about Newark back then?" That's the question. That's the main question I think we want you to answer before we move on to this final topic. Was he a plant, or did he genuinely care about Newark back then when he was in office? And then, like, even now, like, if you have some information, because that's the thing we're confused about, man. I hear
I
so
think
much
most of the
information.
politicians here are plants. If we're going to class, I'm thinking through. because that term is also used in the industry. Or this one a plan, this wrap
Mhm.
up plan. It's a job, and here's
But a
what
job
I
with a lot of resources, though. A job with a lot of resources.
then go out and get resources. There's a lot of people in the city with $1 and $5. They spend it on weed. They spend it on alcohol. They spend it at Chateau of Spain. If the people who really want change, they don't need a lot of money. Meaning individually, be willing to give it to the candidate of change. Then
That's
you,
true.
that's how you strike that balance
That's
because you
true.
don't have to match dollar for dollar, but you can't have the least amount of money.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So it is a resource thing. And like I said, when I think about the plant comment and how that may be used, then don't we have plants now? Isn't that the same as a rubber stamp? What's
Yeah,
worse,
for
a
sure.
plant from the outside or a plant from the inside? I'm sorry, if it's screwing up your garden, I'm a gardener person. So some plants can't even be next to each other. They don't like each other. They don't work well with each other, right? And if you don't water all of your grass, the grass from over there and the garden space from over there is going to draw from that one patch that you do water, right? So depending on how big your grass area is or your garden area, you need to be landscaping it. Voters need to be landscaping it.
Yeah, but okay,
They're
okay.
not
Yeah,
landscaping. So if it's a plant,
yes,
you will be able to pull that plant out of your community if it's a plant that's not working well. But that plant
yes,
raised more money than any mayor in the history of this country. If it was any other city, they would say he was one of the best mayors.
yes, 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 fear. But because we have a history of unchecked accountability in our city, right, and we have mayors that can control the school board budgets, they
Yeah.
can control the housing authority, they can control the municipal budget. You see
But
how
the mayor don't
attract
control the school budget
they,
now. This administration has. If you want to talk about sell off, the
they
city, the
that's
major
right.
assets of the city are controlled by a total other entity
They're not
that the
supposed
mayor
to.
does not control.
They're not supposed to, but he does have a team that runs the school board.
Yeah,
His
but he doesn't have the votes.
he may have the votes, but okay. So how do you explain his biggest donor getting a five or supposedly getting a $500 million contract from the school board? You can't tell me. And then the mayor publicly said that he didn't know about it.
The mayor was likely brought into that deal, not leading that deal. He is the mayor, but the school board is controlled by the North Ward machine. Period.
Mm. So
There
even though
is
he has
no
a slate,
history and relationship. The majority of the votes now are not the mayor's people anymore. That was, but also Senator Ruiz and the superintendent, they are allies. When I'm thinking politically, not to say that the superintendent doesn't work with the mayor, but the mayor, to me, under this administration, has lost control of the police department, the North Housing Authority, if he had control, and I don't even know that y'all wanted him to have control because it really shouldn't be about this. But when you got placeholders and plants like y'all, we keep talking about the people that's not here no more. What about the people in office right now? Sitting on
yeah,
the school board right now.
but did he learn it from the previous mayors? Right, like that's what I'm trying to get at.
Learn what?
Learn the culture of I need absolute power. I'm going to be a dictator.
No,
I'm
I
going to
just think
control
that's most.
everything.
I think that's most politicians. But it's also a culture. People want to collaborate. I mean, want to control, not collaborate. And so, has some of what he maybe get off that folks are critical about. Did he learn from other people? I guess so, but he also could have learned it from other places too. Or maybe he never had what you thought what you think he needs for this position. I always said was critical of that. Not that is I always wondered about the administration aspect because of how our schools were doing. And I always used to say, just because someone is um, recognized or noted as a good principal, if you don't ask what makes a good principal, if it's not the things that are in a principal's contract, like what a job is a principal to do, every principal or every principal that's considered good is not a good administrator. They might be a good supervisor. They might even be a damn good babysitter. Doesn't make them a good administrator. Administrator is about running the shop. Okay. And every day you got to put out 10 fires plus keep the ball moving down. That's a lot of work and a lot of pressure for anybody. But if your intent is to be not inclusive, if your intent is to be violent when you can't get your way, if your intent is to be dismissive, when folks won't flock around and bow down to you, then that's something you bring to the table, because that's not the leadership. That's not my experience with the other leadership.
Hmm.
This is probably the most contentious, um, non really relationship that I've had with any administration ever. And that's a lot of because of personal things that they bring into it. And you're
Mm,
not going to change who I am and what I say. We didn't have this problem until I was there working for the North Ward and supporting Josie's campaign. Until that happened, did that behavior. But for me, the God and the law is on my side every day. I leave my house and come
yep.
back in. So I ain't worried about that. What I was flabbergasted about is the 3 weeks, and to get back to that, it's not that I thought I would mess up the election. I did not want people who cared about me, people who followed me, people who may not know me personally but know me from the internet, to say, now why you had to come up here messing with that mayor? Now what's going on here? And as a professional with a contract outside of my primary work, I'm now doing what I also do. I do not want us talking about, if we're going to be talking about this situation while I'm dealing with Josie's campaign in the way I am over the next 4 weeks, we're going to talk about it in the way I'm going to control the narrative, not
Yep.
making it more about this bull crap that this man did, who's not even, he's not even connected to this. All he can do is be a liability to me and anyone else. So do I think it has something to do with that? Yes. But I'm just going to deal with the matter of facts of what the police report say, what the witness say, what the cameras say, and what the law says, because I don't need to make this messy to hold him accountable. But what I do take from that is the number. When I did take those 3 weeks to kind of figure it out, well, the documentary project people was calling me about, hey, let's do this. I'm saying, well, let's be telling other stories of Newark. That's why it's so ironic that you're doing this, because this helps kind of do that, but more conversational. And
Hmm.
it's not just learning something from me. I'm learning, what I'm saying,
Yep.
things from you, and getting an idea of how you think and your perspective. That's what makes people endearing to people, make them want to give money, make them want to volunteer, and things of that nature. These type of, these type of moments. I didn't want the public to have that, and I also wanted to protect the integrity of how I do business. But I could not stop that man from doing what he's doing, and nobody's going to stop me from addressing him. People ask me, well, "Can you sit down?" Why the would I sit down?
Word.
About what? So now you want to sit down. If he had kicked my ass, we wouldn't be sitting down, would we? You would be
Word.
laughing and making a mock of me on the internet, when this person is all of those things I'm not.
That's the same thing that happened to me. Like
I
someone
heard.
came to me and it was like, you should sit down with the mayor and his people. And I'm just like, if I do that, then so many people who believed in me, they probably wouldn't respect me the same way
Well, I'm
because
not saying resent them. Sit down if you have an actual agenda, but to sit down after you disrespected me, after you, when I'm going by your situation, what I heard, being approached in the mirrors, I mean, anywhere in public by any city hall
yeah.
employee is unbelievable to me. I can't even believe that happened.
Not
But shit,
only
they do this with security guards. Do you know how? And to a black man, do you know how gaslighting that is? How that and then what is your Secret Service going to do when I lay my hands on you for you spitting in my face, being all up in my space? What's going to happen then?
I know.
And this person wasn't doing all this when they didn't have security that we pay for. And so now that comes into play. So
Listen, you
now
had
now I need security every time I'm there.
I
No, I'm
know.
just kidding about that. But I hope
It's
that people don't continue to exhibit the behavior of any of the mayor's brothers, particularly the way they behave in public.
Listen, you had the mayor yelling at me from the stage. He's yelling at me from the stage. Like this was a simple sit down conversation. You had a mediator there, a elder black lady. He get
But
up
you
and
also are not doing anything wrong. What was so wrong with what you were doing?
I don't know, man. But they were
I like to say that they have a concept of what's called sore winners. Even after you win, you're still sour.
yeah, yeah,
That's
it's
why a lot
weird.
of they beef, they remind me of a gyro. Their beef starts from the inside. They think it's the people on the outside of their camp that is antagonized. No, your people. are the people that's the most impacted. It reminds us of Trump. It's like we knew all along that your people were going to be the people left the furthest behind. Your people was going to be the people snatched out of office, put in office. You don't even leave them there long enough outside of the council to do anything on the school board.
Listen, man,
And then if I told you why they moved some of those people,
I know. And that's another thing. Is like people thought that I was being disruptive, but it was like,
but you were. And in order to provoke
I
transformative
knew so
change, you
much
have to
more.
disrupt. No, nobody disrupted more than the mayor. T-shirts over every dead body, every corner, everywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
In the black areas, how many times in a church you telling people, you saying in front of people in a church one time, I think it was the year he was running against Sidney, so that was 2006, no, 9. He says from the podium, it's always from the podium, he says, anybody that's with Cory Booker need to get off their knees. Who on their knees now?
Yeah.
Who bent over now? For a person that wants to be the man to talk subliminally about people because we not with you, what's wrong with you? Now when we talk back to you like that, it's a problem. So those little sly, sassy comments, that comes from he that's who he is.
All right, so real quick before we go into the last segment,
yep.
Explain his supporters though, because it's obvious what he's putting out. Like it's obvious that sometimes when he's talking, I don't understand it. It's obvious sometimes he's not telling the full truth, but he still get the claps. He still get people defriend. I gotta block so many people on my social media just because they're spewing ignorance. And it's just like
a lot of people that come on your page talking crazy. Most times they're not living better than you. 2, you are living for something. They are living or surviving because of somebody else and what they do. So that's something you just go through. Something is draining. That's why, and I have help. So I'm not always responding, but my team has worked with me a long time. They know how to speak in my tone. And if it's something I don't like, I have them change it. But part of that too is having somebody consistent I can trust. Because if I sit here and just let you say whatever on my page,
word,
that's not what it's for. I'm not here to be your punching bag, and I don't come on your pages talking shit about y'all. Even when I'm commenting on your page about that incident, I'm choosing my words very carefully on purpose because I speak to Rahman, I have a problem with Rahman, but Rahman likes to do a lot of that. And I don't agree with that. And I think he was wrong. And I think anybody in that position would be wrong. And part of really what got me was the end part. I think that's where I lost him at more so than anything.
Yeah, let's just get into it because this is the final thing.
Say that because she was doing something as a civilian that you felt like she would disrupt council people is what he was implying is what I thought I was hearing him saying. That as a council person, it's incumbent upon you or you're going to take the liberty of doing it to her. That is not the mentality of anybody that should be leading anywhere in this city. And I would say that whether it was Rahman or not, that is unheard of. That's childish. That's immature. And it's not even applicable. She was not a city hall employee. She can say what she wants. She has freedom of speech. And if there is a sanction or something that's applicable, LaMonica did it, from what I heard, or would do it. So it's not like she wasn't addressed, but she also did not work for the city. You are an employee. An employee of the city should not be challenging, interrupting, and disrespecting council people or directors. And there's no
question. But the question is, why is that okay?
Because it's Ghettoville. You ever notice how a lot of our meetings, the Spanish people stay quiet and the black people be going off?
Wait, so bring up.
It's been since I was a child. The Hispanic elected officials will be quiet as a mouse while all hell breaking loose amongst the black people because they're the root of the problem, I would think.
Wait, so bring it. All right, so let's pull back or let's bring.
That's going to come out so messed up in the clip, but I'm just calling a spade a spade. That's what I see when I see the videos.
Wait, let's bring back that sharp.
And I grew up in council meetings, so I kind of know.
Let's bring back that Sharp James quote. What do you say? He said.
Which one? The break people out of running?
No. You said we the South. We
basically called the slow and country. Yeah. But he didn't say individual. He was just basically like Norg ain't nothing but he's basically trying to put me on the game, right? That's really what he was saying. He said
Yeah.
Norg is nothing but a big country town, and he basically said I was too fast for them, like
Yeah.
dumb it down.
And again, that's what I'm going. Again, that's what I'm going at. I felt like I felt like there were 15,000 people,
Yeah.
and if I would just go viral with just speaking intellectually, talking about systems, talking about culture, exposing the wrongdoing, I thought that that was going to be my path to victory. I really
But
believe that.
it's on a path to victory,
Yeah.
but it's not. You didn't have enough time.
Yeah. That's true.
You need more time, and you needed more resources, probably, but more time.
Mhm. Yep.
And that's why people were so afraid of you,
Mhm.
because the gaps are closing at the same time. The voter turnout is lower, but you are gaining more of that. I had to make a choice basically when I ran. To me, do I compete with the most likely voters amongst the most likely voters, or do I try to go for that, say that 15,000, that base, or
Mhm.
5,000, 7,000, just the people that don't normally vote? And
Mhm.
I decided the best thing for my career path and the goals I had outlined was to show I can hang a bang amongst that most likely voter base. And so what you see consistently producing when you get to that 30%, now all you need is 21 more.
Mhm.
The 21 more gonna come from social media.
Mhm.
The 21 more can come from me and you talking, and now my people getting to know you and your people getting to know me. Now you close it, but you got to keep going. What you did was fantastic, and people who know the numbers know that because you were competing amongst most of your votes were not new voters. There was a significant number. Then we got to account for, did the people that's filling you online actually vote?
Yep.
Are we bumping the data up against the voter file and making sure those people are registered and vote? Or is it just social media? But that is an advantage for you. That is a way to get out. Now, and I saw you out there. Sometimes I'll be canvassing with a group. Sometimes I was canvassing by myself. I got to get out and knock on doors. But guess
Mhm.
what? Neither one of us can get to enough doors enough times based on what the data says. And that
Yep.
data is real. It's 3, 4, 5 times. And the people you're competing with have the resources. They don't want to spend the money. Like they rather do something else with it. But they pay for those paid canvases, and then they have another advantage to get you. City Hall employees are working against you on city during city time. I'm
Yep.
gonna say allegedly,
Yep.
allegedly. But
Yep.
there's a culture of that. So now you have the City Hall employees who feel like their job depend on hating you instead of just getting votes for their people. That's why all that hate got you 11,000 votes. It didn't increase your votes,
Mhm.
and you still won, but you got 11,000. That's what you was projected to get anyway.
Mhm.
You can't get these other ones. They might have stayed home.
Mhm.
Because if you don't do what you did and others don't do what they did, we don't get to see the picture. I think some people don't want people to see the picture
Mhm.
because you are playing a role in what they see as a decline in certain politicians or folks, or they see your come up in either one they don't like. And I don't think that's fair. I think we
Mhm.
can be competitive and we can still be compassionate and just be decent with each other. You know what I'm saying? Um, Saying you stole my app and it's your app, well, you stole my app. You want to have a debate about it? You know what I'm saying? But it's like, no. So you can't run from me and then punch me from the stage and you the OG.
Yeah.
And
All right.
talking to y'all is like talk is what we witnessed on that tape with the gentleman from the North Housing Authority.
Mhm.
When you talk to them, that's what you're talking to. It's just phoniness. You can't even trust anything they say. That's why they were able to catch me off guard that day in Chateau, but it'll never happen again.
All right, so let's just end with this, right? So you kind of touched on it. Donna Jackson and the deputy mayor, right?
Yeah,
You work in youth employment.
yeah.
Just from you looking at that whole situation where residents were saying kids were not getting paid, the deputy mayor saying that's a lie, Donna Jackson supporting the parents. What's your take? Like why isn't it
If Donna
easier?
Jackson says if Donna Jackson says that, if a councilwoman, council person says that two students, for example, two parents called and said my kid didn't get paid.
Mhm.
If that was done on Monday Eve afternoon, and this is coming up Tuesday morning, why isn't someone just taking a beat, having you got staff that go on the laptop? If I was in that situation, Christopher Thomas, who was my payroll person, I can even tell you his name, Norker, would have opened his laptop, even if he wasn't there, he was in office. I would have texted him, and he would have opened his laptop. He would have confirmed for me if they voted or not. I would have probably had them email me that or print it and bring it to me, and I would have slid that to the council member from the side. I
Mhm.
would have also waited and asked Louis Quintana, which is to me appropriate. All these things are appropriate. That's how that place should be run. I would have asked Quintana for permission to address the councilwoman. I do have a point of clarity. I would like to know, or this way, then both ends up in the same place. The director should have said, "Can we get the names of those students? I will do the research to see if, in fact, they were paid, and if they were not paid, we will get them paid." What's wrong with that? No,
Mhm.
you going toe with her. She wasn't even trying to go though. She's asking you to stop interrupting her and stop speaking while she's speaking. It really wasn't about the informality of Rahman and or him saying Donna. I think most people who know them, and this is other people are watching that disagree, with him. But people that know him and know them will say, "Oh no, that's reasonable, right? That you could." I don't think that that part was disrespectful. I think interrupting her was disrespectful while she's talking to a director. And when you are and you're teaching this to do this, it's almost like you setting the fire on behalf of the mayor. That's how it comes across. That's why people don't respect them the way they think they should be respected. So you do that, and then she says something to the effect of, "If you interrupt me again, it's going to be a problem." Well, it's going to be a problem. Then let's go. That to me, you getting the fuck out of my chambers. After that, no fucking way. I don't care how long I know you. I'm not about to deal with this. Are you out of your mind? After I just kicked ass in this election, I'm gonna deal with a deputy mayor talking to me like that.
I want
And
to
when you put in the fact that she's a female, it's like, come on, man. What are we doing? If
listen.
you the deputy mayor, you acting on behalf of the mayor. The mayor coming in there talking about interrupting her is inappropriate. So, for me, my patience would have been low, especially with somebody like him. I would have been, you've been a disruptor as well to many council people in the past. And so it's only matters if you're a city employee. It doesn't matter if she's a resident. There's a thing to deal with the behavior of civilians in a different tolerance level, I would think. And I hope a different level of a compassion for those who don't work for the city. But for city hall employees to think that they can just come into the chambers and disrespect elected officials, that's a slippery slope.
So, all right. So how does someone like that get that position? It's because the mayor said, "I think you are the best qualified person to handle this role."
There's no qualifications for that role. You just have to be
Yeah,
someone
but they need
here
to do
like
the job. They need
what
to do
job is ceremonial here in Newark. It's not like other deputy mayors where it's like there was times where the Baraka mayor would leave, right, for some time, and I would be for a couple of days the acting mayor. It don't have to be the deputy mayor. And there was times where Margarita, as the deputy mayor, was the acting mayor. So it's when you then there's structures of government where the deputy mayor is elected by the people, right? A deputy mayor. In this case, it's always been ceremonial historically. So you pretty much do whatever the mayor wants you to do. So say if economic development was important to Cory Booker, which I believe it was. So he had a deputy mayor for economic development. His deputy mayor for economic development, you better believe, was much qualified in economic development, very much so. In fact, he still worked for North for a long time since I was a kid. He works for him now. Can't even think of his name. White guy lawyer. There was somebody qualified. The gentleman that you said went to prison. The deputy mayor that went to prison under him. Again, long history with the city of North. Very close with Carl Sharif, who was the handler for Cory Booker, pretty much. I get like I told you, godfather of politics to us, as far as we were taught and grew up with. Very few people got mentored by him directly for politics. He had his favorites, so Carl was very prevalent. I worked with Carl. I worked for Carl. But there's been a time when Carl wanted his person and not me. Not personal to me. He wanted his person because I'm not his person to him. You know what I mean? And for some people, that means so. That particular deputy mayor was, I think, public safety. Why? Because public safety was important to the mayor. So you notice these things align with his platform, not with
But
what
he has a staff though.
the guy that was public safety deputy mayor was a former sheriff, former this, former that. So it lines up. It makes sense. Deputy mayor, she was the deputy mayor community engagement. And I remember one of the things, if I misquote you, deputy mayor, former deputy mayor, which I don't think I am, But I remember in one meeting she said, "Well, listen, I don't want to be." She basically was saying, "I don't want to say exactly because I don't want to come off wrong." She basically was saying, "Listen, if I want to be deputy mayor, I ain't gonna be deputy mayor of just the North Ward now. I'm gonna really be deputy mayor. Y'all ain't gonna play with me like that. I'm gonna do community engagement all around." She was the community engagement deputy mayor, and I was the director of constituent affairs before going to the one stop. All of those roles I saw was intentional. They was in a strategic transition plan. A whole bunch of people from Newark and everywhere else came up with this stuff before Cory Booker was in office, and so then it was just executed. I don't know. Even mayors' aides were like that historically. They would do just a little bit of everything, whatever the mayor needed them to do. When I came in, I structured it where you filtered grievances and followed up on grievances that was introduced to the mayor's office by either internal or external residents. So even if you did business with the city and you had a grievance with a department or something, but you came to the mayor's office, they did that, and I broke it down by ward. Not go do not go to the store, go pick up my kids, go pick up my cleaners. That's what deputy mayors were doing when I grew up. Not all of them, some of them, for sure. And there was people who were willing to say, "I'm not doing that. If it means
But
that I got to work for, if it means I can't work for the city, then I won't do it."
if I was the mayor right now and
Yes, sir.
I appointed a crackhead for deputy mayor, I will hope that the residents will criticize me and hold me accountable for that. How is it
The people
possible?
that are voting are, remember, the lowest number of people. They think this is North. They think that's what they want.
Ghettoville, you said it.
That's and the people that don't, the majority of the voters that don't come out and vote, they are voting by staying home. They're voting with their feet.
So I need some crackheads on my team.
Well, two different things. I would say they crackheads. You need to you want to and be that candidate that's all of North. And that's how I am. I got my people that walk up and down Bergen Street and talk shit all day, and they wish you would talk shit about me. They gonna curse you out. You know what I'm saying, when they see me. Because I treated them well. I got young people that have worked for me in the past. I treat them well. I still engage with the seniors. I don't block out any audience. I just do me, and I don't allow anybody to box me out of that. The people, to your point earlier, one of your points earlier, I think you repeated it. It's like, if you can't get transformational things done with everybody, so don't try to get everybody. Just keep
Yeah,
building your base out. And yeah, you want to get some of the subcultured folks, everybody that ain't on the straight and narrow. But in terms of drug, and we're not talking about weed, but in terms of
I
uh,
was just joking.
mental health, no, but there's some truth to that, right? In terms of mental health and in terms of drug abuse, that is prevalent in the city and among city employees. And the fact that HR and them are ignoring it or act like they don't see it, but you can see Whitney. You saw Whitney Houston when she was high. You knew what that high looked like. It's amazing to me how when we in the person's face, we pretending like it's not. Walking around looking like zombies um, um, and skin that's looking like you do all types of pills and all of those things. That's not okay. City Hall cars smelling like weed, taking private vehicles to the city gas stations and getting gas for private vehicles while you getting gas for the city vehicle that you smoking in and popping pills in. All of those things are telling you that it's everywhere. And so whether it's a fiend on the street or a fiend in City Hall is inappropriate. And we
Yeah,
should address that, because they are not dealing with us in the right mind frame, is why so many of our young people are lost. When I walk down Bergen Street now, it's not like when I was young walking down Bergen Street. We're not 14 and 15 looking like zombies. Some of them are looking like zombies, and where are the health resources? When I hear women say they go to that women trauma center, but they don't, they get, you know, I'm sure it's not everybody, but they said just when you walk in the door is not welcoming. It's almost like, why you're here. I've heard that several times, and I'm sure every day ain't a good day everywhere, but we have to be more receptive of what the people are saying. And if you only care about the 11,000 that voted for you, then, sir, I say stay the course, because I don't think trouble doesn't last always. But don't give somebody don't look for a hand up from somebody that's going to turn around and stab you in the back. You are qualified to run for office. You're probably more qualified than some people who are actually in office. And you should have an opportunity to not, everything ain't just about being elected. There's appointed positions and other things. However, I don't like to say this, because I want to be really more optimistic. But Newark is very cliquish and it's becoming like a cult almost. So if you're not with this team, not with that team, you just left out. And unfortunately, we're missing out on a lot of great talent. And I don't know if that's opening up doors for more political puppets or handlers to get jobs or to force more black people out of the city, particularly younger people, or not. But black leadership is not doing its best by that city, and I think they all know it. And it's hard for them to do it because they sell you one band, one sound, but you're not a band. You know what I'm saying? So one band, one sound is just more that Baptist church, that black power brainwashing that folks try to do when they really don't mean that because you're not exhibiting black power. It's black embarrassment.
Yeah, that's my strategy now is to build our own movement. I feel like that's the easiest way for me to just continue to be myself, then find people that support that vision. And it's happening. And it's happening. I have 3 years. I
Mr.
have
Muhammad on here, he know a whole bunch of history. He's
at least
been around for a while and in different positions. Like I said, to even have a conversation with him, particularly outside of politics. Part of how he and I met, he was defending Sharp John James, and I was running against John, and I didn't know him. And so he was being I'd leave. But then once I got to meet him, it was stuff I was able to learn from him. But it's also about people. Everybody, no one's perfect, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not even looking for magic. We just looking for leadership. There are people who, because of politics, because of just nonsense, they don't have simple conversations. That's why I think this is so valuable, and for you to continue, like you said, you would do, and allow yourself. Norkers want to talk to you. They want to engage with you, and you're gonna have some. The mayor has supporters. They jumped on me defending the other guy, and they were all dead wrong. And they were saying things that no city employees should be saying. But again, it's their ignorance. So what I'm using it for is I don't mind what you're saying about me. I'm going to use it to teach people how to deal with people like you that like to bully folks online and like to be disparaging, and even the women who are gaslighting, calling men bees and fags or gay or all of those things. That's hood booger mentality. You know what I'm saying? So part of that part comes along with this too. Like when they kept referencing your hair, I'm like, what the hell? Jay-Z got hair. What the fuck is hair? I couldn't understand why they kept making it about hair. But and I remember one. He was an elder. He was like, yeah, but he can cut it low. Why are we nitpicking at him about his hair? His hair don't have shit to do with what's coming out of his mouth. His hair don't have shit to do with his hair is culturally a part of who he is. That's what my message was. Now we doing that told me that you were on point enough. That told me that you were knocking on the right doors and you were shaking some trees. That's gonna happen. All the tables and the trees and all that stuff that Mayor Baraka did, I also find it a little humorous when I see them get so or hear about them getting so uptight about things that people criticize them, for. I haven't really heard nobody, and I don't even sit with people that would just sit and trash the mayor at all. But the idea again that we should just keep ignoring that our city is falling apart. And I don't know when is it's almost like they're saying, wait for it, wait for it. But when is it coming? Is it 10 years from now? Is it 20 years from now? Because maybe some people want to go do some other stuff and come back when y'all get it together, type thing.
Newark is on the rise. Newark is on the rise.
What was so funny about that, is like the whole thing of remember, and everybody got to feel bad when you say it's no, we are moving forward. They hate and we are moving forward. They just mad about this or mad about that. Da, 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 da. Okay. So then when that tape dropped with Mr. Muhammad that's on here, and the chief of staff was admitting this was 2 years before the PAC council, the 2022 election. So for the past 4-5 years, you are on tape saying exactly what I'm here, the public say. Not much different than what I heard him admit on that tape is what the general public that they, don't particularly engage with or don't want to engage with or can't find a way to work with in a productive way. So all that to say too, I'm not suggesting don't ever sit with the mayor, talk to the mayor. I've had meetings, but what are we meeting about? If the meeting is about me, if I want to have a future in this city, I have to bow down to whatever the chief of staff says. I don't think that you have to answer whether you want to be that person here in the city. That answer was no for me. No, then, now, and later.
listen. What I do want to tell Roz, if there's anyone from the Roz Barakas that's listening,
They're
I do
watching.
want.
Talk to him now.
Yeah, yeah. Look, listen, Roz Barakas. I do want to tell y'all this. I don't have any issues with y'all. In fact, I don't ever want to talk about y'all. But I do want to continue speaking the truth. And I will stop talking and mentioning this stuff if you agree to help me truly push our city forward.
All right.
Right? Like that's the exchange. It's like I could probably help you change your reputation that you have in the city from the vast amount of residents who are thinking you're doing a bad job. Right? Like that's my exchange to you is that if you help me and you help our people get to where we need to be, I think we can help you change your reputation. But bowing down and not telling the
So
truth
what
and
if he said, "But I am doing that"? What would you say back to him?
I'm going to say, sir, then that's when I bring in Alif with me. I bring in Lisa Parker. I bring in Felicia, and I say these are the people that I listen to and I talk to all the time, and they have sound reasoning as to why you're not doing a good job. And I'm not an idiot. Like I've been watching for the past 3 years, just listen to these people say stuff. Then I go research it, and I'm like, they're telling the truth. But then I realize no one else wants to talk about this stuff. And that's why every time I'm out there in the streets, people are like, you and Donna, you and Donna, you and Donna. It's because we were the only candidates, not the only candidates. We were the main candidates that was like really critical of the administration. Not too many candidates were
No, no,
because
no.
they,
You're the only two. I would say you two had the message that penetrated with what the energy of the city was, particularly amongst homeowners, but citywide. Black, Hispanic, what everybody from New York, not from New York, younger people, older people, they are tired of the same old, same old. And if they couldn't have a whole new team, they just either didn't vote or they just went with the people they know. And so some of the advice I was given to people before I got into the race is that you have to fight fire with fire. You need a team and you need to go 4 years running. And that would be my advice.
no,
Whatever
yeah, I'm
running
with it.
looks like for you for 4 years. For 4 years, you have to be willing to make that commitment and put yourself out there and let people know you're not waiting for the petition period. You're not waiting to see if the mayor is retiring. You have 4 years to continue down the lane. What we do know is that they're not going to get better. That's not likely, basically.
Yeah, so listen, man. I would love to have you back on. We chat again. And I also would love to talk to you behind the scenes
Yeah.
about how I could position myself better in 2030. And yeah, thank you, man. This was good. We got a lot of engagement in the chat. I'm getting a lot of text messages saying that this was good. So thank you, man. I
And if
appreciate
there's ways that I can support you, as long as it's not a conflict, sometimes I just tell people, they say, well, why you can't help me? They'll ask me after I'm committed to somebody else. They'll be like, because you
Mhm.
didn't ask.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
But
listen, I'm asking
it's
you
different.
now. I'm
Yeah.
asking you
I
now.
definitely, and we should definitely talk off the record about it.
All
I
right.
also have, my job, do my EJ stuff. We do C4 work too. And part of my future is um, not just doing the advocacy, but balancing that out so that we are raising money in this space for local leaders to get elected, not just federal ones like the other big rings do. So
Word.
part of my main work is that, but I also have those skills, on the side too. And so I don't
Wait.
mind helping out over the next 4 years
Um.
if that's something that you're looking to do.
Yeah, man. You could be the new Carl Sharif, man.
You- There's only one political godfather left alive. I don't even know if he's staying active. That's Oscar James Sr.
Oh,
But
Oscar
they
James.
always it was him, Sharp James, Carl, and Levin West, uh, Calvin West, I should say. And now we just down to just Oscar, and even that, the last one standing, we're not working with, and because we don't want better, we don't want the most experience. We want to do it the way it's being done. That's what
Yeah.
I'm getting from it. But the last thing I'll just say, I do find it funny that we as a city have opened doors for so many people that have now closed them to us. And
You mean
that goes for even,
outsiders?
I'm talking about internal people.
Mm.
Um, it's applicable to individuals who, once they got in what they wanted from it, they now go silent night like it's a holy night because they are not allowed to give things a name or speak up. So I question how you best can represent it. And I do think it has a racial implication there. I think we have opened up many doors as Black people in this city, and other people are outpacing us, not just in our own city, but statewide.
Mm. Dang, man, this was good, man. This was good. Thank you so much again for being the first person to chat with me on here, and I look forward to chatting with you again, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the time.
Yep. Thank you, brother.
All right, I'm sure this will get some good playback. We're gonna promote it as well.
All right. Thank you, man. I'll talk soon.
All right.
Wow. 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 That was a good conversation, y'all. Thank y'all for speaking with us tonight in the chat. I'm using this new platform. So if it was technical difficulties, my bad. Terrance knows his stuff. Yep. Terrance definitely knows his stuff. He's someone that I was looking up online before I decided to run for Central Ward Council. So that was fun. Shout out to Terrance. I do want to tell y'all August 29th, we're having the first Brick City pop up. The link is on my page. Please RSVP if you can make it. It's going to be here on Halsey Street at a restaurant called The Brisket Guy. He is a Newark native. He opened up a brisket spot. And again, the whole movement is about building local, buying local, and figure out how we can get more residents to build products, build services, build companies, and then get other residents to purchase from those companies. So that's the movement we're kickstarting on August 29th. I'm going to be live on Thursday under the same brand, What's Up Newark, where it's just going to be me. It's just going to be me recapping this conversation and talking about some other stuff. We need the most experienced person to always lead the people regardless. Yep, that's true, Dwight. That's true. That's true. So yeah, on Thursday, on the Thursday lives, I'm going to be more engaging in the chat, talking to everybody in the chat because it's just going to be me. But on Tuesdays, I'm going to be having conversations with other Norkers. So I have someone lined up for next Tuesday. So that's going to be fun. It's someone that's going viral kind of in Newark for talking about the housing development and everything. So that's going to be a fun conversation here. And yeah, August 29th, send me a DM if you want to learn more. And if you want to play spades, we're having a spades tournament at the event. If you want to play spades and you have a partner or you need a partner, let me know. We have a tournament. So that's what's going on. Other than that, thank y'all again for watching. I'm going to get some sleep and I'll talk to y'all on Thursday.